Good morning, everyone. It's so good to be on this webinar today. Like Jennifer said, my name is Jamie Tom, and I'm at the South Carolina Aquarium. Now, that's located in Charleston, South Carolina. So I bet many of you have been to our beautiful city here in Charleston, and I am at the South Carolina Aquarium. I am so excited to talk all about your summer reading theme. It's a great theme, Tails and Tales. As you guys can imagine, here at the aquarium, we have a lot of animal tales that we can talk about. And we love telling the stories of our animals. So that's what we'll do today during our program. We're going to be focusing on fish tales because we have a lot of fish tales here that we can look at and we can learn about. But as we all know, animals have tails. So it's not just fish. And there's a lot of reasons why animals have tails. So let's start there, and then we'll narrow it down and talk a little bit more about fish tails, and I'll take you around to see all the fish here. So let's talk about those reasons. Think about it for a second. Why do you think animals have tails? Like, why does your dog have a tail or your cat have a tail? What do they do with their tail? Think about that for a minute. Maybe think about a peacock or think about a skunk. So there are lots of different reasons why animals have tails. And I have a list here that we can talk about. And this is a reason for animals to have tails. So the first one is, of course, for moving, like a fish that's going to be swimming, or maybe even alligator that's swimming. Another reason that animals have a tail is to communicate. So it's a way to talk to another animal. And I know our whales do. So that's pretty interesting. Another way that reason tails is to protect themselves. So you can think of this scorpion down here at the bottom, and they're going to use their tail to protect themselves. Maybe it's like a monkey who's going to be getting food using their tail, swinging through the trees to get their food. Or maybe it's like a possum or a monkey that would use their tail for stability, to hold on to the tree to be able to not fall out of that tree. So lots of reasons that animals have tails. And like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be focusing on fish tails today because we do have a lot of fish here at the South Carolina Aquarium. And their fins are very important. And we are going to focus on their tail fin, but fish have fins all over their body, and they all help them to swim, but they have different purposes. So if we're talking about that tail fin, the one that we're going to focus on today, that's what they use to move forward. So they're going to push that tail, and it's going to help them move forward. But they also have fins in other parts of their body, like their dorsal fin and their pelvic fins and their anal fins. They're going to use those fins to make sure that they don't wobble through the water. So they have the top fins and the bottom fins, and that keeps them from wobbling in the water. So you guys can see that they stay pretty stable in the water because of those. And then, of course, they also have these pectoral fins on the side. And the pectoral fins, they have one on one side and one on the other side, and they're going to use those fins to turn. So they might push this one to turn left, and then they turn the other one to turn right. So their fins are very important. But today, your summer reading theme is all about tails. So we're going to focus on those tails. Now, lots and lots of different fish tails. I bet when you've been looking in the Great Ocean Tank already, you've noticed that there are a lot of different sizes of fish, different shapes of tails, different sizes of the animals and their mouths and their fins. But let's look at some of the different shapes of these tails. Okay, lots of different ones that we can find on fish. These are specific for fish. But if you look at this one's really common on a shark. So here in a little bit, we're going to go look at our sharks. And what makes it so special is it has a long top part and a shorter bottom part. What that tells us is this fish is not only fast, but this fish is also going to be moving and continuously swimming. So when you see a tail fin that's shaped like this, it's on a fish that's going to be swimming almost all the time. Now, these other two that I see on the top, those shapes, those are of fast fish that are really fast swimmers. Sometimes they're only fast for a second, but they're very, very fast. And we're going to see a lot of these today in our Great Ocean Tank. Now, let's look at this bottom row because these are interesting. This shape and this shape. Now, when you look at these, they're more paddle shaped. There's a rounded one and there's a truncate one or a triangle shaped one. And that shape is going to tell you that that's not a very fast fish. That's a pretty slow fish. But what they're really good at is turning. So they can live in the rocky reef areas of the ocean, or maybe where there's a lot of coral reefs, because they can turn in and out of all of those rocky crevices. So we're also going to see a lot of these today. And then the last one on this list is this pointed tail. And this is very common of eels. So if you've ever seen a green moray eel or a speckled eel or an eagle eel, then they have very, very long tails and their fins go all the way around. They're good at getting into tight places, and they can also go backwards. That's pretty interesting about the eels. I wanted to show you guys that because as we go around our great ocean tank today, you're going to see a lot of those different shapes. So it's interesting to know that fish have all those different tail shapes because of where they live. If they live in a rocky area and they need to turn a lot, then they're going to have those more paddle-shaped tails. If they live in the open ocean where they're going to be swimming a lot, then they have to have that more forked tail that has the two parts that go up and down. So what we'll do now is I'm going to spin us around and change our angle, and we're going to go looking for some of these fish that live in our great ocean tank. At the end, I'm hoping I will also be able to show you some special tails of fish that are just a little bit different than the ones I just mentioned. So right now we're spinning around so that we can take a better look at our great ocean tank. And look at that. I know we're not talking about sea turtles today. We are talking about fish tails, but we can't ignore the fact that Caretta, our sea turtle, just decided to come down right in front of where I am today. So I cannot ignore that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take us a little closer to Caretta so that we can see her. She kind of interrupted our fishtail program, but man, we can't ignore her because she's amazing to watch. Check her out. Now we are talking about tails. So if I was going to talk about a sea turtle tail, there wouldn't be a whole lot to talk about. Believe it or not, there's not a whole lot to talk about whenever we talk about sea turtle tails. They just kind of tuck underneath their shell, and they don't really use them for a whole lot. Maybe for a little bit of steering, but that's about it. And you know what, everybody? This is her favorite place to take a nap. Looks like she's trying to munch on something too. You guys see that? There is no food over there for her, so I don't know what she's trying to do, but she loves to take a nap right here in the Great Ocean Tank. All right, now before I move away from Caretta so that you guys can see some of our fish, I do want to let you guys know that if you have any questions or if you have anything you'd like to put in the chat, please feel free to do so. That way I can take a look at that later and see if you guys have any questions that I can answer. All right, let's see some fish now. Sorry, Caretta. All right, let's look up here at this one. These are called Gag Groupers. Pretty interesting fish. Look at their tails. See if anybody can remember, if you have a paddle-shaped tail, what kind of habitat would you want to live in? You guys remember what I said a few minutes ago? These are fish that would want to live in this rocky area of the Great Ocean Tank because they're not very fast. You can see some other ones there. There was a triggerfish, and now there's a spadefish. That's the black and white striped one right in front of us. And there's a sheep's head right there on the left. And there's a porkfish. So when you look at their tails, they're a little bit more paddle shaped because they're really good at turning. There's a sergeant major, a black and white striped one. The little bitty ones are called sergeant majors. So they're really good at turning and finding places to hide in our rocky reef. That's why you're seeing them so much right here in this rocky area. Now I'm going to back up so you guys can see this whole view, because right now I'm really close, but if I back up, you'll be able to see the whole view of the Great Ocean Tank and see what I'm talking about. All right, so this is the bottom of the Great Ocean Tank. And when you look in there, you can see that big rocky reef. And a lot of the fish that you're looking at there, they are good at turning, but they're not very fast. Now I'm going to show you up, 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 up. I'm going to show you the very top of this tank, and we're going to go up there in a minute so we can see it a little bit better. But if we keep going up, we can see the top of the Great Ocean Tank. And up there, you're going to see a lot of fish that are faster, and they have those forked tail fins to help them swim in the open ocean very fast. So we'll go take a look at those a little closer in a minute. But I do want to show you our green moray eel. So let's come around the corner here, and I want to show you our eel. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see the eel's tail, though. because the way the eel likes to settle down right here, the tail is kind of hidden from us. But if you look in the right corner, I think it's your right, then you will see a green moray eel. And he is opening and closing his mouth right now. That is how he breathes. He is a fish. He has scaly skin that is covered in slime to help him get in and out of rocky areas. And he has a very long, slender body with a pointed tail. So usually those are fish that like to either go down underneath the sand or they like to go inside rocky creases and crevices. So I'm sorry, everyone, we can't really see his tail, but he would be a very long, slender fish with a pointed tail. But look at this grouper hanging out right here in front of us. That's pretty funny. Now, this grouper has a good story. So I know this is all about tails and tails. Let me tell you a story about this grouper. This grouper has lockjaw. So if you look at his mouth, you can see that he never closes his mouth. It's always open. He has a little bit of an issue with his jaw and he cannot close his mouth. So if he were to live in the ocean, he would have been food for a larger fish a long time ago. But because he lives here at the aquarium with us, we can make sure he gets everything he needs and he's not going to be eaten by a predator. So that's an interesting story about this grouper that I definitely wanted to make sure to tell you guys. All right, let's move around the corner and see if we can see some other fish. You're going to see some of our visitors coming along with us. Let's go around the corner here. See if we can find some sharks today. This is the best window to find the sharks. Now, we do have to share this view with our visitors, but check out all those big fish, guys. Now, we talked about the difference in their fins. So if you look in here, you're seeing a lot of those large fish that have forked tails. That's because this is the open ocean part of the Great Ocean Tank. This is where all the fish like to swim pretty quickly through the water. You might have also noticed that we had a shark swim by us a minute ago. There's a shark right there in the bottom corner, right above that child's head. There we go. Now look at that tail. Remember, they have a long tail on the top and a shorter tail on the bottom because they are going to be continuously swimming in the ocean, never ever stopping, always swimming. There's one of our fastest fish in the Great Ocean Tank. That's called a Barracuda. That's probably one of the fastest. Look, see how their tail fin is forked? Has a long part to the top and a long part to the bottom. That's a very, very fast fish. All right, let's see if we can see some more sharks while we're looking in here. I want to make sure you guys get a chance to see. We have 11 sharks in the Great Ocean Tank. Here comes one right now. Oh, that's a perfect view. That's one of our black-nosed sharks. We have 11 total sharks in here. We have sand tiger sharks. We have nurse sharks. We have brown sharks, and we have black-nosed sharks. And one of the questions that we get very often is, do the sharks eat the fish? Well, I'll tell you the answer to that is not very often. So I'm not going to tell you that it never happens. There's a shark right there, and you can see Caretta at the bottom. I'm not going to say it never happens. Every once in a while, one of our larger fish will eat one of our smaller fish. But you know what, everybody? It does not happen very often. Maybe once every 8 to 10 weeks do we lose a fish that way. And the reason for that is because everybody in the Great Ocean Tank is very, very well fed. They're not hungry. So they're not going to be hunting for food. They are given food continuously 3 times or every day. The fish are fed. The sharks are fed 3 times a week. Caretta is fed 3 times a week, our sea turtle. So everybody in here stays very, very well fed. Pretty interesting, isn't it, to see all of those fish swimming together. If I didn't mention it yet, the Great Ocean Tank holds 385,000 gallons of water, and we have about 550 fish in here. 550 fish, and that represents about 40 different species. And they're all native to the Atlantic Ocean. So all of the fish that you see in here today, you can find in the Atlantic Ocean. There goes one of our brown sharks. That was a good view. I'm glad you guys got to see that. Like I said, that's a Barracuda, and we have some Gag Groupers. Those are the white ones that you see. We talked about that one Gag Grouper that has lockjaw. All right, I'll tell you another good story. Let me tell you about this little yellowfish over here. You guys see that little yellowfish that's over by the sponge? You know, those are porkfish, and they're pretty small. They're not very fast, and they're really good at turning and getting into all those tight crevices. You guys can see a bunch of them. But do you see how a few of them are venturing away from that reef a little bit? Don't you worry, they're not going to go too far because they're not that brave. When they get out a little bit, they're going to swim right back over to the rocky area where they're safe. But you know what? Those are great fish to talk about because they are cleaner fish. And a cleaner fish is a fish that cleans other fish. It's just like what it sounds like. So a large fish will come by. Oh, you can see. Oh no, it didn't happen. Didn't happen. But a large fish will come by, and you'll see the pork fish. It looks like they're nibbling on the other fish, but they're not hurting them. They're actually cleaning them. They're cleaning any dirt or algae that might be growing on the fish's scales, or they might even be eating a dead scale right off of the fish to help clean it and keep it healthy. So I'll keep my eyes out and see if any of our pork fish are cleaning other fish, but that's a really good story for us to talk about. It's good for us to have fish, big fish, little fish, medium-sized fish, all living together here. All right. I see a shark swimming right in the middle of the screen right now. That's one of our black-nosed sharks. All right, everybody, let's head upstairs. Now, to do this, I am going to have to take us up the stairs, and you guys are maybe going to see some more of our visitors. So I want to go up there, though, because I want to show you the way the Great Ocean Tank looks from the surface, because you can see quite a bit of cool things up there. So here we are. We're going to go up these stairs, and we're going to go see what else we can see. All right, if I look up right here, you guys are going to see our kraken, or a big squid that we created all out of plastic bottles. We put lights in it. Isn't that cool? Our exhibits team created that. We have an exhibit right now called Monsters, and this is our kraken made out of all recycled plastic bottles. All right, here's another part of our Monsters exhibit. This is an anglerfish. You can go right inside of that mouth and look at some different deep sea fish, and they have interesting tails. All right, let's go see the top of the Great Ocean Tank. Here we are. A little bit of a glare with the squid behind us, but I think we can still see the fish pretty well. We're seeing a lot of large fish on the surface here. They have those forked tails for fast swimming. We might even see a shark swim by. We'll have to see. Sometimes they come up here, sometimes they don't. We also have porcupine fish. Those are puffers. And sometimes this is the best window to see the puffer fish. All right, I'm noticing that we haven't had any questions come in yet. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat, and I'll try and keep my eye over there so I can answer any questions that you guys have. There was one of our sharks right there. All right, there's one more window I want to show you to the Great Ocean Tank. So this is the window that was connected to that same window we saw downstairs. Oh, look, Caretta's down there sleeping again. She's going to take another nap. She loves to sleep right down there. All right, so now we're going to go around the corner, and I'm going to show you the second floor window to this Great Ocean Tank. We've seen quite a few different fish fins. Oh, good, we get to see the puffer. Look at him, everybody. He looks like a school bus going through the ocean. He's so boxy. Look at his tail. He's got a paddle-shaped tail. And then his dorsal fin on the top and his anal fin on the bottom are really close to his tail fin, and they all work together. Wait till you see it. See all three of those fins working together to help him swim? Not very fast at all, but that's okay. If a predator comes near, that porcupine fish is going to puff up really big like a beach ball. And if I were a fish, I wouldn't go anywhere near that. Spiky beach ball. Ouch, that would hurt. Look how beautiful all those fish are. I've only seen a couple of them that have the paddle-shaped fins. Most of the ones I'm seeing up here have those forked fins. That means they're fast fish. There's a jack, there's tarpon, there's permits. I see a triple tail in the background there. All right, now I want to take you guys on another adventure. This is the Great Ocean Tank, and I'm going to leave. Oh, there goes one of our brown sharks. I'm going to leave the Great Ocean Tank, and I'm going to take you to a couple more exhibits that have some pretty cool fish. And let's see if we can see their tails. All right, we're going to move into our coast gallery. All still salt water, so when I leave the Great Ocean Tank, we're still looking at saltwater animals. But let's talk about this one. Check out that tail fin. It's fascinating. This one is so beautiful. I bet some of you know what this is called. This is called a lionfish. And it is a beautiful fish. Wonderful colors with all those fins, have all the different rays that are sticking out. But let me tell you about this fish. There's a good story here. This is a good story fish. This is a fish that we do not want to have here in South Carolina. So even though they are beautiful, we don't want them here. They are not native to South Carolina. They are native to the Indo-Pacific, and that is where they're supposed to live. But unfortunately, they're very invasive, and they are starting to take over the waters of South Carolina and, of course, other parts of the United States of America where they're not supposed to live. They have venom. So a lot of fish, there are no predators to this fish. There's nothing in the ocean that can eat these lionfish here in South Carolina. And because they don't have any predators, they're just taken over. And so we don't want to see them in South Carolina. This whole exhibit here is talking about invasive lionfish and what we're trying to do here at the South Carolina Aquarium to try and get rid of these fish from the Atlantic Ocean. Working with lots of other agencies, we want to try and get rid of lionfish from the ocean. So a lot of people are learning how to fish for them. And then, of course, they're really good eating if you know how to cook them. They're really good eating. So that's the goal here, is to try to catch those lionfish, get them out of the ocean since they're not supposed to live here. And of course, they're beautiful fish in the Indo-Pacific. We just don't want them here in South Carolina. They've got a rounded tail, though. You can see the tail fin is rounded and it's kind of clear, and they move it back and forth. This is a reef-dwelling fish. So a slower fish, really good at turning. They like to live in reefy areas. Here in South Carolina, those are rocky reefs, but in the Caribbean and other tropical places, that would be coral reefs. Wonderful looking fish, but we just do not want them here in South Carolina. All right, let's go over here and see another special fish. See if I can show you another one here. I'm not going to tell you what it is. We're just going to go look and see. Give you guys a second to take a look. It's like they're doing a little maintenance in here, but you can see they're moving the shells around. Did you guys see that? That was great. They're doing a little bit of exhibit maintenance to this one. It's got a sign on it. You can see that sign. So you can see that they're reaching in with a grabber and they're moving things around and cleaning that exhibit. But what I want you to look for is that fish that you can see, and it's grabbing onto those sea whips with its tail. That's a seahorse. I bet everybody knew what it was as soon as you saw it. This is a seahorse, everybody. And they have a very special tail. They are fish. So first of all, they are fish. They have very different fins, though. They have a tiny little fin on their back, and then they have their tail. And they use their tail to grab a hold of the sea whips or any corals. And then they have that fin on the back to move them forward. It's hard to see their dorsal fin because it's blending in right now. But when they swim, you can see it kind of move back and forth so that they can move forward. Very, very different than most other fish in the ocean. Oh, you can see the dorsal fin on one of them right now. The one straight in the, I'll put it in the middle of my screen. There you go. You can see how his dorsal fin. Now watch how he moves around and he grabs on with his tail. Oh, that was good timing. I'm glad you guys got to see that. So let me tell you the story about a seahorse that makes them so special. It's Father's Day coming up too, so this is a good story for our fathers. So the seahorses are the ones that carry the babies. The females will lay the eggs in the male's pouch. He fertilizes those eggs and he carries those babies. And then they will hatch from the pouch. So that is a really great story. Oh, look at that. It's like he knew I was talking to him or something. Of course, that's not true, but he came right over so we could take a look at him. That's awesome. But the males are the ones that carry those babies. It's the only animal I know of where the male is the one that carries the babies. Pretty fascinating. All right, that's a very unusual tail for a fish, that seahorse. All right, any questions out there? Jennifer, I haven't seen any questions come in. Maybe I'm telling them all the answers they would ever want to know.
This is really fascinating.
Good.
I liked the close-up when he came into the camera.
That was pretty good, wasn't it? And I can tell you guys something else about the seahorse. Since we don't have any questions right now, one of the things I can tell you is that how they use their mouth. You guys see how their mouth is very, very skinny? It looks just like a horse's head. They use their mouth like a straw. So they kind of suck up their food like we would use a straw. So they're going to eat tiny things in the ocean, little plankton. They'll eat plant plankton, that's called phytoplankton. And they'll eat animal plankton, that's called zooplankton. There he goes again. Their tails are fascinating. Okay, I have another fun fish to show you guys, and we're about to run out of time. So let me take you over here so that you guys can see our flounder fish. Now, this is called our camouflage exhibit. And right now, I can show you one flounder that's right next to the horse conch. Let me see if I can show you here in my camera. You guys see that flounder right there? My finger's pointing him out. That is a flounder. Now, the flounder has a rounded tail. Do you guys see that tail over there? It's very rounded. But this is a flat fish. It's not a fish that swims like any other fish. You can kind of see him, this one swimming right here. See how he's kind of swimming along the bottom? These are fish that swim along the bottom, and they are going to use their tails to wiggle them around and hide underneath the sand. And then they can change the color of their skin or their scales to look just like the sand or the gravel where they live. So not only can they change their color, but they can use their tail to hide down in the sand. And I think that's pretty fascinating. Let's go over here. I want you guys to look and tell me, how many flounder do you see right now? See if you can count them. And I'll tell you how many I see. They're really good at camouflaging. I see 5. Do you guys see 5? I hope you guys see 5. Let's see. There's one here. There's one here. One here. One here. And one here. I see 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one right here is the one that used his tail to hide underneath the sand. Do you guys see how he's covered himself with the sand? That's pretty neat. Now, this side of the tank has a little bit more of the dark colored gravel, and this side of the tank has a little bit more of the white colored gravel. So a lot of times we'll see the flounder changing their colors to blend in with that exhibit. I'll also tell you, everybody, that this is the home of our octopus. But the octopus is brand new. He was just put in here yesterday, and he is hiding from us. So I can't show you the octopus because he's doing a really good job of hiding. All right, what I'm going to do now, everybody, is I'm going to turn that camera back around so that you guys can see me again. All right, now you guys can see me again. I've had so much fun. You guys got to see so many fish tails today, even some special ones with the seahorses and the flounder and the lionfish. I hope you've enjoyed learning about all the different tail shapes that fish have. And then on June 24th, we're going to get back together again. And that time we're going to be talking about our river otters and how, well, they're very, very cute, but how they use their tails. So I hope you guys will join us again on June 24th at 11 o'clock. And I will introduce you to Ace, and Charlie and Bo are river otters. Right, Jennifer?
Thank you so much. This was so interesting. I loved seeing all the different fish tails. And I guess you just did such a great job of explaining that no one had any questions. But I
That's
did
what.
want to point out before we sign out that there are some handouts. If you see those under the handout tab, that Jamie has provided us with a book list and a coloring sheet, and those will be on posted on our Facebook and YouTube page when we post this recording. So you can watch this again and again and see all those really cool tales. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great summer. Bye.